I ultimately made my childhood bully pay for a $40 debt 1,000 times over. And it all started with a slide phone and a stream of lolcat memes he used to bankrupt me. This story begins in the early 2010s, a time when I was in middle school, right on the cusp of the smartphone revolution. My first phone, which I received just before 6th grade, was a relic by today's standards, a slide phone with a pay-as-you-go plan. Every minute of a call cost 10 cents, and every single text message, whether I sent it or received it, cost another 10 cents. Even worse, sending or receiving a picture message cost a whopping 25 cents. My parents allotted me a strict $100 a year for this phone. If I went over, I had to pay the difference myself from the very limited money I'd get for my birthday or Christmas. Most of my friends understood my predicament and were great about helping me conserve my precious balance. They'd call, I'd let it ring once, and then I'd immediately call them back from our landline so the call was free. For most conversations, we'd just use Skype or email. It was a system that worked perfectly until Leo joined our friend group in 7th grade. Initially, Leo seemed funny, but that impression faded quickly. He was unpleasant and exhibited a lot of antisocial behaviors that wore on us all. He thrived on creating drama, not just within our group but also with other kids at school. He was a master manipulator, always twisting situations to play the victim whenever he was rightfully called out. Crucially, he knew how to charm parents, which made getting rid of him incredibly difficult. And out of all my friends, he was the only one who completely disrespected my phone situation. I told him multiple times to email or Skype me memes, but he insisted on texting them, knowing full well each picture cost me a quarter. At that moment, Leo thought he was just being a nuisance, completely unaware that each 25-cent meme he sent was a seed being planted for his own future. Catastrophic loss. Unfortunately, the cheap pay-as-you-go plan didn't have a feature to block numbers, so I was helpless as he spammed my phone whenever he felt like it. The inevitable climax came one day when he got angry at me for some trivial reason and decided to unleash a digital assault. He spammed my phone with an endless barrage of memes. I swear he must have sent over 100 pictures of lolcats. He kept sending them one after another until my service abruptly cut off. My phone balance was completely depleted. The $40 I had remaining in my account was gone, just like that. I was furious. I confronted him and demanded he pay me back the $40 he had maliciously cost me. He just laughed and said it wasn't his problem. When I got home from school, I told my dad what happened, fully expecting him to march over to Leo's house and give his mother a piece of his mind. Instead, my dad said it wasn't worth the battle. I even brought up the idea of small claims court, but he advised against it, saying that not all fights are worth fighting and the effort wasn't worth $40. He took me to the carrier's store, loaded another $50 onto the phone, and had my number changed. The store initially claimed they couldn't block numbers on my plan, but my dad was adamant and refused to leave until they found a way to block Leo's number, which they eventually did. For a while, I was paranoid about my new number getting out. Thankfully, that summer, my parents switched to a family plan and got us all iPhones, which came with unlimited texting. The immediate problem was solved. But I never forgot about the $40 Leo had essentially stolen from me. Not long after, a major blowout between Leo and the rest of our friends led to him being permanently kicked out of the group. He spent 8th grade as an outcast and then changed schools. We never heard from him again. Years passed. I graduated from college and was home for a few months before starting a new job across the country. One Saturday morning, I was exploring local garage sales and, by a stroke of fate, I ended up at Leo's house. I recognized his mother instantly, but with glasses and a beard, she had no idea who I was. I spotted some Pokémon napkins on a table. As I picked them up, his mom remarked that her son had been obsessed with Pokémon his whole life and that she was sick of all his stuff cluttering up her house for so many years. A plan began to form in my mind. I told her the napkins were for my younger cousin, a huge Pokémon fan, and casually asked if she had any more Pokémon items for sale. She seemed surprised people were still into that stuff and mentioned there were several boxes of her son's old things up in the attic. This revealed Leo's greatest fatal flaw, inherited or perhaps enabled by his family, an ignorance of true value, both in friendships and in possessions. It was this exact flaw that was about to cost him dearly. To my astonishment, she led me inside the house and pointed me toward the attic ladder, letting me bring down several large boxes myself. The first box was just junk. but my heart started pounding when she opened the second one. It was packed to the brim with Pokémon video games, all in their original, pristine boxes. I was freaking out internally but kept a completely neutral expression. This was the long shot I was hoping for. I knew how obsessed Leo was. He used to brag endlessly about his collection of every single main series game, all in mint condition. I'd been to his house once, and he screamed at me for just touching one of the boxes. We opened the rest of the boxes she had me bring down. It was a goldmine. There was the entire Pokémon game collection, several Nintendo consoles, hundreds of other games, 24 binders overflowing with Pokémon cards, and even a box of old Lego sets, complete with their original packaging, including many classic Star Wars sets. The moment I saw the Jango Fett minifigure, I knew I had struck oil. I mentioned that I also liked old Legos and then, trying to keep my voice steady, I asked her how much she wanted for all 5 boxes. She thought for a moment and said, $100 a box, or you can take all 5 for $400. I told her I'd take it all, trying not to seem too eager as I rushed to an ATM to get the cash. I loaded the 5 boxes into my dad's truck and drove straight home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I knew I was sitting on tens of thousands of dollars worth of collectibles. This was the score of a lifetime. The universe had finally served my revenge, cold and incredibly profitable. I gave all the items to my uncle, who resells things on eBay as a hobby. He was thrilled and agreed to sell everything individually, generously insisting on taking only a 10% cut of the profits after fees. Together, we cataloged every single item, and the total estimated value of the lot came to about $40,000. $40,000. It was a poetic number, exactly 1,000 times the $40 Leo had stolen from me. Just as one commenter on my story later put it, this was a case of petty revenge that yielded a pro-revenge payout. My uncle sold most of the collection before the summer ended. The final check was less than the estimated $40,000, but it was still a life-changing amount of money for me. I was able to pay off all my remaining student loans and use the rest for a down payment on a new car. Looking back, I sometimes think about the aftermath, a sentiment echoed by another person who read my story. Now I feel bad for the mom. I can only imagine what happened after Leo found out. I hope she's okay. It's a valid point. She was an unwitting participant in her son's reckoning. In the end, the story teaches a simple lesson: the consequences of our actions, especially those driven by malice, can sometimes return to us in the most unexpected and spectacular ways. Patience can be a far more powerful tool than immediate confrontation. It makes you wonder what Leo's reaction was when he finally discovered his entire childhood collection was gone. But more importantly, was this justice served? Or just a once-in-a-lifetime stroke of incredible luck? What would you have done?